Okay, the next anonymous question that I wanted to answer tonight was, so where is, quote, the line before marriage in relation to the law of chastity? Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about this one. I know I've probably said that in other questions, then I end up talking a lot, but this is one we're also going to talk about later on in the course of the semester. And so I want you to kind of save up your discussion a little bit and then your discussion boards to talk about that and as you learn about it. But one of the things that we mentioned later on, it posed the question of the pamphlet of the Churches for the Strength of the Youth pamphlet. Thoughts on how that applies, and including does it even apply after marriage, and utilizing that. So I would encourage that as a reference, certainly, to that question. Obviously, though, I think what most people are looking for when they ask that question is kind of a give me the exact line. What can I do and what can't I do? And there's a good reason I think they don't necessarily give as much of that as they teach principles. Because typically when you answer that question, say, well, here's where the line is. And I'm not saying the person that asked this question this way was intending it this way, but a lot of times someone might take the answer. If I would have said, well, you can do A, B, and C, but not X, Y, and Z, then kind of the idea is, oh, great, so I know I can get up right to that edge. Now I know where it is, so I can go there and feel like I'm not breaking the law of chastity. But when you look at sexual intimacy and those sexual desires and powers, there was an analogy or an example that I had heard about that a teacher used in a young women's class, where she kind of drew a timeline here on the chalkboard and then put up several different kind of behaviors that maybe lead up towards having sex. And so maybe holding hands and kissing or snuggling and making out, and kind of went progressively along those lines. And then she said to her class, she said, okay, I'm going to, and maybe you've seen this done, but I'm going to put the chalk over here at the far left where things begin, and with flirting or whatever the first behavior was. And I'm going to start to move the chalk along this line, and you as a class tell me when to stop. So she kind of started, and then really quickly went really fast and jumped past, and the students kind of responded, whoa, hold on, you went too fast. We didn't get to tell you when to stop. And the point she was trying to make, that I think is an important point when it comes to this idea of where is the line, is trusting or knowing that these are strong powers when it comes to sexual intimacy and desires, and they pull stronger the farther down that line you get, and with some good reason. I think the way Heavenly Father built us this way when it comes to marriage and intimacy, and being able to really have that be a positive experience within marriage, some of our inhibitions go away the farther we get down that line, and some of our, in the case of premarital and looking at law of chastity, it's not uncommon that as it starts to go, it accelerates so fast, or those desires get so strong that it pulls us, even if you get to a point where you say, well, this is where the line was and I was only going to go this far, but by the time I get there, those passions have built such intensity and such draw that either you don't realize how fast you're going past that, or even I see the sign, I kind of see that line, but whether you justify or kind of feel like I don't care, I'm going to keep moving. And so that's certainly the risk there with this idea of the line and getting close to it. Now, I know there are a variety of views on what is or isn't appropriate before marriage, and there may be some who then say that's why we didn't even kiss until we kissed over the altar, and others who may have different views on that. And so again, we'll have a discussion board post on that a little bit later where we talk a little bit about that. So I'll let that discussion kind of happen later on, but I would at least say when it comes to asking that question where the line is, probably the goal isn't to say, let me find out what I can do and get as close to that edge, nor am I saying that you have to stay as far away as possible. I think it's okay to have affection and physical affection and learn to deal with that premaritally. But instead of trying to find reasons to get as close as possible, I think it's good to say, well, even if I thought this is where the line is, I'm not going to put the fence, kind of like if there was a cliff. You don't always put it right at the edge. You may put it a few steps back and say, I know that this may not be that bad, or maybe I'm not sure if this is bad or not, but if it's a gray area, I probably should steer clear of it. What would be the things that I think are definitely appropriate for us to do? And if it's questionable, then it's probably a little bit of danger in that slippery slope kind of experience. So I hope that answers, gives some ideas to that principle, and then I look forward to hearing what each of your thoughts are on the matter later on.